Good afternoon and welcome to the OOH-RAH Report. I am your host, Anthony Keverett, and today we are talking about Monday Night Raw, the first Raw of the brand new year. And what does the show open up with? It's poetic in my opinion. It opens up with Hulk Hogan talking about the iPhone. That right there is an omen for how this whole show is going to go. He opens up and he talks about, you heard of the iPhone, brother. I'm not going to do the Hulk Hogan voice for this entire thing. But he talks about it and he goes, this is the H phone. And he goes, you can do the Facebook. You can do the Twitter. You can do the YouTube. And I'm just sitting there and I'm really hesitating to just skip through this because it's bad. It is very, very bad. And yet, Legends Night. Woo! It's really dumb that they have to resort to this at this point. So, literally right after that, we go into Miz TV. Nothing necessarily happens on Miz TV. Miz brags about how he's Money in the Bank. Holder still by technicality, which is a whole mess, but whatever. He's still Money in the Bank, Mr. Money in the Bank, and he brings in the New Day. The New Day, they throw shade. It's a fun little thing. Teddy Long then comes out, and there's a funny little joke where he goes, Miz and Morrison are going to go one-on-one with The Undertaker. Everybody flips out. Well, the canned crowd noise flips out, and he's like, "Wait, I can't do that. He's retired." And then he just goes on and says, "Oh, we're gonna have a tag team match." And I'm like, "All right, that did get a nice chuckle out of me. I'll give them that. You got one. You only get this one, and then that's it." So right after that, there's a commercial break, and then we actually do have, after the New Day wins, a recap of the Orton-Bray Wyatt feud, and this is where things for me start to get a little interesting and also a little bit worse, because I love what they're doing with Randy Orton and The Fiend, and throughout the night we get to see the implications of the last few weeks, especially last week, where we do not know at the moment if Alexa Bliss was set on fire by Randy. And overall, I think that this storyline is great, and it can show that when given the time and effort, Raw can be very good television. So I'm surprised that we didn't get any real development in that storyline, but I do think that it is coming. So Orton talks about, how he's, he's just this monster now, and he goes, every time somebody faces the Fiend, something changes inside them. He's like, I'm not going to let it change me, and I didn't burn Alexa Bliss. And I was like, okay, so we got a little bit of story development from it. And then he ends up saying, it's Legends Night. I'm going to go find some legends. So he's going to do some legend killer stuff. Cool. Right after that, we get to see the new 24/7 champion, Angel Garza, which good for him. He wins the belt. I would have preferred if it was a different belt, but whatever. He's interacting, he's getting involved, and then that really just sends it into a plug for the Women's Royal Rumble match. And we end up getting the announcement that Charlotte will be in it, and she's going to try to win it back-to-back. The Women's Royal match interests me because I don't really know who's going to win. I have my personal thoughts, which I'll get to as the weeks go on and we start to get closer to the actual Rumble pay-per-view. But if you're going to put money on Charlotte, be careful with it, only because I don't really think she could do back-to-back, but based on what we did tonight, I guess. So we end up having a match right into that as Charlotte comes out with her father, Ric Flair, and it is her and Asuka taking on Peyton Royce and Lacey Evans. You ready for some tag matches? Because I'm telling you, the SmackDown was rough. If you saw my SmackDown review, SmackDown was rough to get through because it was mostly tag team matches. Raw has almost the same problem, because they start to get into the trope of having a lot of tag matches. The second one on the night, they have at least one more. And I think, okay, we're going to get some interesting stuff from here. So we have the match between Charlotte, Asuka, and Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce, which, once again, I cannot stress this enough. Why would you break up the Iconics if you'd have both members of the Iconics doing tag team storylines on two different shows? I don't understand that, but I digress. The match is okay. It's a standard tag team match. Nothing really happens until the end, where the finish is interesting. As Lacey Evans is thrown to the outside, she goes up to Flair, and she starts, she pulls on his tie, innuendo, joke, nudge, 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 until you want to just stop watching, and Charlotte stops it. This causes Ric Flair to trip his own daughter in the match leading to a Peyton Royce roll-up victory for her and Lacey Evans. Why, though? Like, the best part about this is through the match, there's always communication between Charlotte and Rick, and they're fist pumping, and right after the incident, they fist pump like, we're cool, we're hip. No, that's just dumb. And then she gets in his face afterwards, says, I don't need you. Then why'd you bring him to the ring? Like, we've seen this play out multiple times. Where Charlotte is just, she doesn't like that she has to stand in her father's shadow. She doesn't like her father's way of doing things. So why'd you bring him to the ring? Like, I don't get that. And the fact that was your ending to your match was like, okay, cool. Rick's not going to be on Raw next week. So what's the point? You have Ric Flair, why don't you just make him do a cameo like you did with the rest of the legends? Like, the Mickey Jameses, the Tonkas, and Sergeant. Like, make him just stand in one of those groups, and that's it. Like, I don't know why you had to bring him to the ring and have this little kerfuffle for no reason. It baffles me. And then you take a bad legend moment, and right after that, you have a really good one. You have this conversation between Big Show and Randy Orton, which is just great. Anything Orton does, I would, if you wanted to watch Raw, skip through everything except the Orton segments and the main event. But because Orton just does a really good job of playing, like, he tells up the history of him and Big Show, and then later in the night we get one with him and Mark Henry, and they have a lot of history, and we go to that, and it's just Orton can't do any wrong at this point in his career. He's been doing phenomenal stuff with The Fiend. He did a really good job with Drew, I think, and I just think right now him and Drew are the only good things on Raw at the moment, and that's not for fault of their own, but the Orton Big Show segment was very good, very satisfying to watch, because you can really tell that Orton needs something. Him destroying The Fiend wasn't it was just the beginning of something. He's going to build into this character where he's just like, he's going to go back to that vicious, in my eyes, the 2000 and early 2010s Orton, where he was just a bad guy, and it was so good. And I really hope we do get like that nice deep heel persona from him again. So right after that, we have a singles match. Great. A nice singles match between Bobby Lashley and Matt Riddle. I'm not calling him Riddle. His name is Matt Riddle. This match, they basically use it to just announce that both men will be in the Royal Rumble match, which I'm happy about. I get it. I guess this is the road they're going to go. They're just going to have these matches to formally announce that they're in the Rumble match. Cool. But the match doesn't really do much. The only interesting match, once again, same thing with the Charlotte match, is the most interesting thing about this match is the finish, because the finish is Bobby Lashley puts Matt Riddle in the full Nelson, and the way Riddle gets out of it is interesting. He bounces off the middle rope, does a flip, and then he's still in it, and then he taps. Bobby Lashley lets go, and the ref because the ref was so occupied with the jump from the rope that he was distracted, that Riddle rolls up and pins Bobby Lashley and wins. That's a good ending. What I don't like about it is that you had two roll-up finishes back to back. I understand, and this is not the only roll-up finish we will see tonight. If you're gonna do it's the exact same finish as the Charlotte Flair tag match, and if you were gonna do that, have a match in between. Don't have it back to back, because if you have it back to back, you can notice it. Like, I was watching it with my brother, and he does not watch as religiously as I do, and he knew right away. He's like, that didn't look good, because now you have both finishes. People notice things, and it just doesn't look good. So that was my only gripe, because it was a really good ending and a really decent match, but just that ending, why would you do it so close to one another? That did bother me. So after that, we have a nice little commercial break. There's a lot of those today, and I think now that I'm starting to watch it on DVR and all that, you can start to notice how many commercials there actually are in this. You come back from it, and then you have Shayna Baszler destroys Mandy Rose, and then Dana Brooke, her tag team partner. Okay, I guess I don't know how long they've been a team. I think it's a few months now. I completely forgot they were a team. So Dana Brooke's like, I'm going to fight you now. They have a fight. Dana Brooke is in street clothes, which I love how the fact that she's just going to wrestle Shayna Baszler in street clothes. And the best part about this, it's another roll-up. They have a roll-up. it's a complicated roll up actually, in my opinion, because Shayna's beating on Dana Brooke, and she has her in the Kimura lock, and she basically just falls on and then just rolls over, and I'm just like, that's a roll up, isn't it? Like, to me, that's a roll up. When you are in a move and you go up against them and you make their shoulders are down, to me that's a roll up. So that's another roll up finish in my eyes for the third time. Why? Like, I understand you want to make Shayna look good, and you also want to build up other threats for the Rumble match, but it's still the way that the match ended was odd. And then actually, surprisingly enough, Dana gets the win, and then her and Mandy beat up Shayna, and I am interested to see what they're going to do with this, because Shayna, to me, is one of the credible threats to win the Rumble. She was a credible threat last year. She made it to the final 2 last year. So, to me, you're going to make her... I'm surprised you're going to make her lose going into the match, because you want her to feel like a big deal. You want her... she had the run with Nia as tag champions, but you kind of want her to feel like a big deal going into Mania, because I feel like she's going to challenge Asuka, because that was the match we never got in NXT. We never got Asuka versus Shayna for the women's championship on NXT. That could be a great Mania match, despite if you have Mania in a stadium or in the Performance Center or in wherever, the Thunderdome, wherever it is. That's a good match, but I'm interested to see how they may get there. I don't know if that's the plan, but that's what I want to see, and I would like to see how we're going to get there. So after that, Orton does get another segment in the back, and he talks to Ric Flair, throws some shade about him and him and the history they've had, and the whole feud, little micro feud that they had when Orton was facing Drew earlier in 2020. And yeah, no, it's just a nice little thing. And then Orton has a match against Jeff Hardy right after that. And yeah, it's Orton and Jeff Hardy. If you've seen one of these matches, you've seen all of them. It's a good match. Orton wins. Surprisingly enough, I was really expecting some type of Fiend-ish thing here, but there was nothing to be found. And I guess I'm okay with it. It's just a matter of, like, you've had these last 3 weeks where that was the main focus of your entire show, and now, like, because it's like Legends Night, then there's no real storyline progression, and that frustrates me a little bit. So next matchup, you have the Hurt Business versus Lucha House Party. This match was very short, and it finished with a roll-up. 4. Really now? We're really doing this, where you're going to have a 4th roll-up in the same show. This is like what's happened on SmackDown with the tag team matches, but it's worse. The tag team matches at least had their own finishes, and you could remember, like, each of them was different. This is the same damn ending for every match. Why? Just why would you do that? If the fact that I keep saying it, it makes me really mad, because there's so many other ways you could progress these storylines without having each one be a roll-up. So your main event is Drew versus Keith Lee for the WWE Championship. Go watch this match. It's a really good match. Both guys are phenomenal athletes, and they deserve this match to be watched. Great match. Drew wins with the Claymore. Was there any doubt about him winning this match? You got to keep Drew going strong till Mania. And I'm very excited to see what they do with Keith after this, because I'm not saying his time in the main event is done, but I want to see where you go from here, because now he's lost the WWE Championship match twice. And then after that, because there's still time left, and it's Legends Night, so we got to plug some shit, we have Goldberg come out. And he comes out, and he talks to Drew. He congratulates Drew on a victory, but he says, you're a great champion, but you don't have respect. That's some grade A bullshit. If you've watched any of Drew's run as WWE Champion, and anytime there's a legend involved, especially if you can just go back and watch his feud with Randy Orton and with Ric Flair, he respects the prestige of that championship. He respects any legend he comes across. So for Goldberg to come out and say, you don't have respect for these legends because you don't think they can beat you. Of course they can't beat you. Most of those legends are way past their prime. A few of them can go still. And yeah, but here's the thing. he doesn't have to care. He should worry about the people who are in the ring with him. The Keith Lees, the Randy Ortons, the Bray Wyatt. Like, those are the guys he has to worry about. Not fucking Tatanka. Like, and I'm not against, that's not a dig at Tatanka. I was surprised to see him. I was very happy to see him. But just, the reasoning for Goldberg coming out made no sense to me. And then, the best part. He challenges Drew to a match at the Royal Rumble. We're fucking doing this again? Excuse the language. But why? We just had at this time last year, heading into Mania, we had Goldberg taking the Universal Championship from The Fiend, and people hated it. People despised it. So now you're gonna try to give us again at the Royal Rumble 3 weeks. You have 3 weeks to build this up and make it a good storyline. Goldberg versus Drew McIntyre. Who asked for this? I can guarantee you not a single fan wants to see this match. But we're getting it. And I'll be honest, it's going to be dog shit. Goldberg, as much as he wants to say, I can go, you can't go, bud. Like, yeah, you can go better than I could go. But at the end of the day, there's no reason for you to be in the main event of the Royal Rumble. There's no reason for you to be in a WWE Championship match with Drew McIntyre, who's been carrying the company on his fucking back since Mania and trying to keep it afloat during a global pandemic. You do not need to have this match. But it's going to happen. Because old people, as Legends Night can prove anything, old people have to be a draw, right? They have to be what the show's built around. So yeah, as you can tell, I didn't like this episode of Raw. This episode of Raw was hot garbage. It was worse than SmackDown, and SmackDown was bad. But SmackDown had redeeming qualities. This only had one redeeming quality, and that was the main event match. That's it. Every other match on here was repetitive. It did not do anything to entertain me. Yeah, you plugged the Rumble a little bit. Fine. That's what I wanted from SmackDown. Plug the Rumble a little bit. But you didn't plug it well. Like, you plugged, saying, Asuka's not in the match. Charlotte's in the match. Shayna's in the match. Keith Orton is going to be in the match. Like, okay, cool. I figured these people were going to be in the match. And then you drop the bombshell on us that it's going to be Drew versus Goldberg. No, I don't care. And the best part about Raw is, the whole reason for Legends Night, and it's blatantly obvious, is that you wanted to get some ratings. You wanted people to tune in, see some old faces, be like, I remember you. I remember Hogan. I remember Flair. I remember Slaughter. Like, okay, but here's the thing. That's good for 5 seconds, and then I'm going to change the channel. Legends draw me in. It's the main roster talent that keeps me there. And the fact that you are still staying in the past and you're going to give us Goldberg McIntyre because you think that's what the fans want, then trust me, fans, you're not listening to them at all. So, before I continue on my glorious rant, I will end it here. Thank you for joining me here on the Raw Report, here on the OOH-RAH Report. Please leave your thoughts on this episode of Monday Night Raw in the comments below. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and I will see you all next time.